Welcome in to Rover Sports, the show. Everybody on YouTube and Facebook, I want to thank you guys for being a part of this great journey here on Rover Sports and being a part of our program. We are here. We are also live on ESPN Radio. We are here today.
I'm not sure about that, but let's continue.
Well, not right now, but we are also a part of that.
We are part of that.
We are
enterprise.
here. I'll tell you where we are. Well, not maybe exactly, but
we're
we
exactly
are
at RDR Studios in a secret bunker where Winston Churchill operated. No, we're just kidding. We're not with Winston Churchill.
That would be great, but that's also in the United States. And Bruce, Bruce the Sports Doc is here. We got Big Al Zafiri. It's a very, very exciting time indeed. We get an hour to just talk on HD equipment in the studio about sports, about the Masters. And I want to start it off with a legendary game last night, Bruce. The national championship. The Virginia Wahoos, the Virginia Cavaliers, are the national champions for the first time in program history. Bruce, what did you think of that show last night?
Well, I wasn't personally rooting for that team. I was rooting for Texas Tech, and when I watch a game, I like to have a rooting interest. So, was I really that sore that Virginia won? No. I think it's a great story. I think Tony Bennett, who's got the name of a great singer, you can't help but like the guy. He's a family man. He's a religious guy. His dad is there. On both sides of the aisle, they were both very likable people. I was just rooting for Tech to win, and at the end they just got blown out. But I tip my hat to the victors, and Virginia earned the victory.
I look at Tony Bennett and this style of defense, the pack line defense. Nobody thought that Virginia would ever win a championship playing this slow style of basketball, and it almost bit them a couple of times because Purdue hung in the game, and Purdue had a 3-point lead with 8 seconds left. Auburn, of course, had a 4-point lead with 13 seconds left. And, in fact, last night, the Texas Tech Red Raiders, I thought that Virginia controlled that game. I thought Virginia controlled that game last night, and with the power of the three-point shot, Moretti, Matt Mooney, Texas Tech, I don't even think they played well last night, Bruce, but Texas Tech still had a chance to win. They were up 3, and it's because Virginia's offense can get stagnant at times. It could just be Ty Jerome dribbling it around. I thought Virginia outplayed Texas Tech again. I thought Virginia played a very good game. I thought Ty Jerome's a special player. He's going to be like a Spurs-like NBA player. And I'll tell you, DeAndre Hunter, Friend Central product out of Philadelphia, he reminds me of a player that could potentially be one of the great NBA players of our lifetimes. Like that shot he hit in that corner was reminiscent. It was the same spot Michael Jordan hit his shot against Georgetown. DeAndre Hunter
over and over again hit the big three. Nothing but net. He's also got size. Looks like he's about 6'8".
He was a beast on the boards last night.
Did you say he's 6'8"? How tall
is he? He's 6'8", and he's ripped. He's shredded. So,
and you're also, let's put a prop in for Spencer G, a Fred Central alum.
I am, at least a middle school alum.
A middle school alum, absolutely. Al, did you catch any of the game last night?
Be honest with you, no.
That's fine. That's fine. We're not going to ask you to
weigh
in.
Well, were you not?
He's a Phillies guy.
Well, the Phillies game was over. The game started at 9:20.
Yeah, can I ask that question? That was one of the biggest heads. Why is that game at 9? I can understand people are trying to always tell me the West Coast. First part, it's still the Super Bowl starts at 6:30. Why in God's good name is the men's NCAA basketball national championship game on at 9:20 at night?
Good question, Spence. Do you have an answer?
It is prime time. It is prime time.
It's way past prime time.
Well, prime time's 8:30 is when Monday Night Football, I believe, goes off. But the game was in Minneapolis. The game was in Minneapolis. It was Central Time Zone. Texas Tech is in the Central Time Zone. I think the game should have started at 8:30. But I didn't mind having it at 9:20. If it was at 10 o'clock, I would still love it based on my schedule. But I love how late the game was. But the answer to that question is they felt like 9 o'clock for some reason. I think it's definitely like 45 minutes too late. And the ratings were a little bit better than last year. for this game. I mean, Texas Tech and Virginia, it's not the blue bloods of blue bloods, but I thoroughly enjoyed it because, Bruce, one of these teams was going to win a national championship for the first time in program history. And for Virginia, I honestly was rooting for Virginia last night because they lost to the 16th seed last year, because Virginia's always known the choke, and because Tony Bennett each and every year has a #1 seed and he can never get the job done. And these kids, how embarrassing was it to lose to UMBC, for Kyle Guy to battle all of his anxiety issues. He put his anxiety to the forefront. And these kids didn't shy away from the adversity of last year. And then you talk about destiny. You talk about the shot that they had to hit to beat Purdue. You talk about Kyle Guy going to the line. He needs to make he needs to make at least 2 out of the 3 free throws in order to get to that national championship. He makes all of them. Virginia, the road, how clutch they needed to be. It was their time last night. And for Texas Tech, Bruce, they had all grad transfers, okay? They kind of just threw this team together in 1 year. Virginia's a team that has been together for years and years. And that's why I was happy to see Virginia win, because I know Texas Tech and Chris Beard, he is just getting started. It would have been a bonus for him to win a national championship. But for Virginia, this was everything, and this team is now immortal.
Do you think he has enough to come back next year, to make a run next year?
Texas Tech?
Yeah.
Well, they're
graduating
they're graduating a lot of people, and their good freshman is going to the NBA. But Texas Tech is an elite program, Al. So in 2 or 3 years, they will absolutely be back in a Final Four. Chris Beard's one of the best coaches in America.
I want to mention that we're on Bruce Grosinger Facebook. We're at Rover Sports, and you can see our sponsor is Philadelphia PRP and Stem Cell Institute. And essentially, real regeneration, not fake. It's 610-222. That's 5675 is the call-in number. And that is the number for calling in for regeneration. But the call-in number here, which is a different number, is 484-257-9592. And all of you are welcome to call in and questions and comments. You'll be on the air. You'll be on Rover Sports Live.
And, Al, I wanted to shift the conversation just a tad.
Sure.
I want your picks, and you can't mention Tiger Woods. I want some picks for the Masters for you, buddy. I'm putting you on the spot here.
That's what I say. Because you know my golf goes real deep.
I'm ready for this PGA. I'm ready to hear some of these names.
Is there anybody else besides Tiger Woods play golf? I didn't know that.
Well, do you know Jordan?
Spleef. I always say his name wrong.
I think he smokes his spleef.
That's what I always remember.
Remember Bruce saw Jordan Spieth at The Office?
Yes, he did. I mean, you pick the first 2 topics. You go right off the bat with one. A game I didn't watch and the sport I barely watched.
That's not right.
It's some golf, but
so
Bruce,
Spencer, how about this? I'm going to come back at you. Ready?
Yes.
New Zealand curling team.
Yes.
Could you wax eloquently on that?
But in fairness, the Masters is one of the biggest sporting 4 days in American sports, and pretty much the world.
So what do you think? So answer your own question. Break it down.
I like DeChambeau. I like Bryson, and if you heard Bryson's interview, Bruce, you're going to have to watch him. He's a golfer where every club length is the same length-sized irons.
Okay.
He's a complete nerd. He will putt now in golf, it's actually legal if you play golf with your buddies, on a public golf course, you're allowed to leave the pin in.
Okay.
You don't have to take it, and the professionals can leave the pin in now, and he's actually doing that. So DeChambeau is like such a nerd. He studies every blade of grass on the golf course. He's going to be a guy who's going to do well. Of course, we have Tiger. I'll tell you, Thomas, Justin Rose, Ricky Fowler is a guy who always chokes in golf, but is always there late in the year. The Masters, it's a right-to-left kind of golf course. You had Patrick Reed winning last year. Pretty much every golfer is really, really good, so it's hard to pick. It's hard to, dumb down the names because there's, 20 guys that can win the Masters, Al, every single year.
Well, here's the thing. Is my most recent Tiger memory, I don't know if have you seen this recently? He was playing, I forget where he was playing, but he was going from one hole to the other, and he's walking through a crowd of people, and one guy had a picture of his face, but it was the mug shot when he got arrested originally. And I gotta give him credit because I thought he was gonna snap, and he just started breaking out laughing and walked past this guy. I give him a lot of credit because
you mean he was wearing a white shirt?
It was just a white shirt, but it had a picture of his mug shot, like his face. That was it. From when it was like his all tired.
Yeah, when he was Ambien.
He was on Ambien and he was out.
Did you see that video, Al, of him saying the ABCs backwards and stuff?
Yeah, I give him a lot of credit though because most people in his position, that would have been it. That would have
been over. They would have been embarrassed to death.
Yeah, I mean, this guy had a lot of things come out.
He's been killed twice. He's almost been killed by a 5-iron from his wife's hand.
There's guys.
Do you know how many girls he was with? 120. 120.
120, and when in a span of how many years?
I don't know, but I just heard 120 was his number.
That's incredible.
Did Wilt Chamberlain say, "Hold my beer"?
Wilt Chamberlain, he had tens of, what did he say, 30,000?
Oh yeah.
So Wilt Chamberlain, if he really had 30,000, he would have had no time to play basketball.
What about Ric Flair or something? Wasn't there a documentary on Flair where he said
Flair have like 20,000?
He'll tell you that. I don't know
how
true it is.
But Flair, it's part of the myth of Flair, of course.
How about Sean Kemp? Was he known too? I'll tell you, Cromartie has the most kids.
Well, what do you have, 18 kids or something?
I think he has like 30.
Oh, my God.
Antonio Cromartie. It's like 25.
No, because they have that show called the Cromarties, right? Isn't he of his own, like...
I haven't watched. That would be an entertaining show. But the fact is about Tiger, that's an amazing accomplishment, but I'd love to have that responsibility of having all those women. I would definitely think I would like that responsibility.
Nobody would like that responsibility. I like how you call it a responsibility. I am responsible to take care of all these women.
It's a responsibility. Derek Jeter did it right, of course, because Derek Jeter's doing the same thing, but you just never get married, and Tiger messed up by getting married, and that's the whole...
so did A-Rod. He got married to J-Lo, and then...
A lot of people make that mistake.
Over half of the population right now
Mike Crown,
in America.
Haverford High, class of 77. A lot of great people joining the watch party. Too numerous to mention. Larry Ramuno, I see popping up. Yvonne Seville. Wow, we got a great group of people here at Rover Sports. And George Whitehill. And what we're talking about is a lot of stuff. One is Phillies update. They're down 1-0. But Al Zafiri, we're not asking you about golf. Yeah. Are you worried at all?
Not at all. These guys can bash their way out of any problem right now. They can. We've already seen it. Now I always go back. There was a game back with the 2000. I guess it was the 2009 Phillies. They were down 9-1 going into the 9th inning. I actually remember I had to take a sleep study, so I'm watching the game at the sleep study.
So you're wearing like you're all hooked up like Frankenstein?
Nowhere to go. I'm sitting there.
What's a sleep study?
Talk about it later.
Yeah.
He's like a laboratory rat. Yeah. They're measuring his respirations and his sleep cycles.
That's what Tiger Woods does.
Yeah, it's like fever. It's like fever pitch. They're down 9 runs and whatever.
And you know what? You didn't turn it off because you knew they could come back, and did they? They came back. It was like they were down 8-1. They won 9-8 at the end of the 9th. This can happen with them. I am not worried about them giving up 1 or 2, 3 runs. This is a team. Except
Reese Hoskins had a beautiful home run yesterday.
Hoskins
anybody could beat you. You know, that's the thing about this team. They take charge. It's just like the great Phillies teams.
Yeah.
This lineup is like Murderer's Row.
There's really no, except for
there's
that
no
spot, you don't worry about
in Mikel Franco, it was so funny. Looking at the manager, he said, he's really cemented the 8th hole slot.
Yeah.
And I just thought that was the funniest.
There we go. Oh.
There it is. There's a nice error. And he's on base.
Well, the thing that there's 2 issues. I mean, of course, we could talk about all the greatness, but, I mean, it's going to come down to, is Hernandez going to still be at second base, or are they going to put in Kingery? I mean, that's going to be the debate.
They did put Kingery in last night. He had a good game.
I still like Hernandez.
I think Hernandez right now is your starting. They were just giving him a break. I think he needed a little mental and physical break, and I think I believe Gabe said that pregame. But I mean, you signed Kingery. I'm actually a Kingery fan. A lot of people kind of poo-pooed him after last year. Listen, he was young. He just got his contract. We all know how that game plays out. I think he's got a very good work ethic. I don't want to say he's just like, but he has a Chase Utley-esque type feel to him, the way he works on the game, the knowledge
his base
of the game.
running was pretty good the other day.
He's going to be I think he's a young guy. He could easily be a late bloomer. He's a good fielder.
I just feel
good
bad. I
work
would
ethic.
like to see him get more time.
Let me ask you this question: how good of a hitter can Nick Williams be? How good can Nick?
How much time could he play? That's 2 part. How good could Nick Williams be, and where is he going to play?
I think Nick Williams could be a good player. I think Nick Williams is get out of his own way sometimes. I think he's a little bit too cocky for his own good. For a guy who hasn't proven himself as much as he would like to. Believe me,
Really?
I'm sure Nick Williams would like to get more time. And now, I believe Roman Quinn is now playing some AA, AAA ball right now, just kind of getting himself back into the.
He's worked himself back.
Yeah.
He had a pretty good end of the year last year.
Yeah.
Was
Actually,
fast.
speaking of PRP, one of the pitchers, I'm trying to remember who it was. He is not pitching right now because he just had a PRP shot, so he's going to be out for another few weeks.
Segue into Philadelphia PRP and stem cells. And the thing about PRP, no cutting, no downtime, no dangerous drugs. 610-222-5675.
Yeah, that was-
Operators on duty 24/7.
If that was a Tommy John surgery or some sort of surgery, he's done for the most of the season at that point.
Right.
PRP, he's only going to be out for another few weeks, and he can come back and play healthy again, which is good.
And I think the number one, Bartolo Colon, who finally retired last year, after 45 years on this planet,
He was special.
This guy was special. He was not a thin guy. He was never in good shape. But because of PRP, it gave him 5 extra years of pitching in the majors, pitched for the New York Mets, Oakland A's, and he's certainly the poster child for PRP.
Yes, he is, and Bruce, looking at, speaking of the Phillies, I'd say the MVPs of the team. I think Mikel is definitely one of the 4 best players on this team. Rhys Hoskins lately has won games single-handedly because Bryce is getting walked a lot. I mean, Rhys had a rough stretch in Washington, but now he's playing better. And number 3, this is my favorite player on the Phillies because this guy is the ultimate underdog. He never gets talked about with the rest of the pitchers. It's Zach Eflin. Zach Eflin, I think he's the best pitcher right now.
He's definitely turned that corner.
He might be, other than DeGrom, the best pitcher of this season so far. And I want
the season's only about
Zach. Zach needs to go. Zach needs to go 7 and give up 1 run for the next 15 games.
Playing like I think it's a 0.00 ERA.
I love Zach Eflin, and I know his name's like Zach Eflin.
This is what the Phillies organization has been hoping for. That they could. If Zach Eflin makes a turn. I think Velasquez, I don't really see much from him. But, they're waiting for all these guys to come out and do what they're supposed to because it's that time. It's kind of the do or die for some of these pitchers because the trial and error is over. It's either pitch or your job's being taken.
Pitch or be pitched.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah, and Phillies baseball is certainly great. They're 7-2 right now. Bruce, in a couple of weeks. So I guess I do want to talk about the Masters a little bit more this week. I mean, what are your favorite holes on the back 9 of the Masters? Like, what excites you about that golf tournament this week?
I like Amen Corner. Certainly the par 3, I guess, is the 13th hole.
The 12th?
The 12th hole. Over water is certainly exciting.
Very tough hole.
Even if you're a casual golf fan, when you look at Augusta, Sunday, wherever you are, we're usually at a barbecue somewhere or wherever, some club watching it.
Yeah.
It's always special. It's always competitive. And it's a place, it's on my bucket list. Haven't been to Augusta, but it really kicks off the season in style.
It's the beginning of golf season. It really is. And looking at Augusta, the back 9, every blade of grass, I love that there's even no rough on the property. The greens are so interesting. And in fact, Bryson DeChambeau was telling us that he can't even prepare the same way at Augusta because they don't have a yardage book at Augusta National, actually. Or they don't have a putting green like they don't have a greens book where it shows you the breaks and everything. So he can only prepare a certain amount. But the drama, the fact that you have 2 par 5s in that back 9, that's what makes Augusta so special, and it really kicks off the season.
Now, we have a question from Lisa from Redding. First, she has a comment.
I love Lisa. She's always there for us.
She says, we have 50 people in a watch party.
Wow.
Show of hands, 2 of them are interested in golf. So what she wants to know about is the NFL draft, Austin, Texas.
The draft or the NBA? We could go draft or playoffs or NBA playoffs.
Both.
Let's go
I think
draft.
we should go
draft.
NFL draft. Let's talk quarterbacks.
Sure.
Let's get into some red meat. Where are the quarterbacks going?
Yeah.
And I'm sure Al has an opinion as well.
Yeah.
But golf, I think we've already exhausted that. We don't want to let the air out of the balloon.
First, I want to give a shout-out to Luis Perez from the Birmingham Iron, a professional bowler. He played no football in high school, didn't play one game, wasn't even on the JV team, not even a junior varsity player. He is now an NFL quarterback for the Philadelphia Eagles, and he's going to be here. He went to Texas A&M Commerce in the middle of southern Texas, and I'm so happy for Luis Perez.
Was that today? When did they sign him?
They signed him yesterday to a one-year deal, so he's going to be battling with Sudfeld. I think he's better than Nate, but Nate, of course, has like a 3-year advantage on Luis. But
there's nobody else either. I mean, there's nobody else behind Carson. I mean, is he really battling? Is he battling?
Maybe there's 3 guys. You know,
I don't know if there's anybody. I mean, they could always pick somebody on the. I don't. Do you see them drafting the quarterback in any length? In
No.
any round.
I definitely
I don't
do not.
think that they should.
No.
For the Philadelphia Eagles, the guy that I think that they should go after. There are some good cornerbacks in the first round because I don't know about Sidney Jones. He's thin. He doesn't tackle very well. He's good in coverage, but there's good cornerbacks. Josh Jacobs, to me, is a pretty good running back, but I don't think he's worth a first-round pick.
I think he's going to end up going in the first round just because it's been very chic to draft running backs, especially with
Saquon Barkley,
Saquon,
Todd Gurley.
I don't see the Eagles doing. The Eagles are not unless it is.
They're not
Saquon,
drafting
like that generational
There is no
player.
Saquon. Jacobs
No.
is not that. The Eagles won't be drafting a linebacker or running back in the
honestly-
first
You
round.
don't think a linebacker, Bruce?
Nope.
I still think that you could see a trade for Duke Johnson, and the Eagles won't even have to worry about a running back at this point. You get Duke Johnson, Jordan Howard, and Corey Clemente, and then you can jettison one of the Pumphrey thing's over. We all know that.
Pumphrey's terrible.
Pumphrey's too thin. He can't even.
Too thin. He's too small.
And
He's like
apparently doesn't know how to
5'3".
play football.
He has a combination of both.
Yeah, and like I said, and you could see what you have, maybe Smallwood, I don't know. But I think, and all I would like them to do, really, is O-line, D-line, linebacker.
Linebacker.
Just stockpile them, whoever's best available. It is a very deep draft with the defensive line and the secondary.
Yeah.
O-line.
I think we need some O-line backup help.
I think you
So
need
now-
defensive
so here's my-
tackle.
You could get an O-line project in one of the later rounds, I think.
Well, here's the thing: is speaking of O-line projects,
And guards.
I mean, our Australian friend. I mean, he is the guy that apparently the Eagles are very high on, and they see a lot of now. And this kind of comes back to like the AAF and all that not being around anymore already. They're only lasting about 3 or 4 weeks.
Yeah.
It would have been nice to maybe be able to send him, like, with the Phillies, when somebody comes back for an injury, they can send him down to a minor league team, let him play, they get his feet wet, and see how he does in some game time, simulated game type situation.
Right.
He's not going to get that. He's
Jordan
not a guy.
Mileto, he would have been great to be in that new league
And-
because he would have gotten some reps, real-time reps.
And you want to like
like
him? I
summer
think he's going to be a
league.
great Philly guy because he was the only guy in the 7th round who was still at the draft waiting to be called up to the podium. He's the only guy
That's the
there.
best. Nobody would do that.
Yeah, and it was great. He comes up all dressed up and he's all excited. And I mean, the guy's is a super freak. I mean, he's just gigantic. He is like
He was like a running back. In rugby, he was a running back. He was
was a
fast.
Mack
Did
truck.
you see him?
Yeah.
He was like...
Yeah.
And, everybody was clamoring to see Jordan
And it's-
Mileto. We were all clamoring to see him at a goal line, just going over from 3. But Dougie wouldn't give that to us, even though he dressed some games as a backup. But we might see that next year.
You know what's funny about the draft is like when you get to the 5th or 6th rounds, those calls can be coming in from Zimbabwe, Vietnam, from naval bases all over the world. You can't even hear them. They're on tape delay and everything. And, I look at the Eagles, they clearly, you have Kruger, Hill, you don't have 3 linebackers. Now, a lot of people will say that the NFL, since there's so much passing and 4 wide receivers, you only need 2 linebackers, so Nigel and Kruger Hill can do that. The defensive line, I think, needs a little bit of depth and help. I mean, Malik Jackson.
Linebacker, they need somebody.
Well, Malik Jackson is pretty good. In the middle, Fletcher Cox is still going to be pretty dang good. On the edge, Brandon Graham's getting a bit older. He's like the same age as Pierre Paul. He came in that same draft. He just got paid. You want another guy behind him. And Derek Barnett is your starter. Derek Barnett's been hurt. He doesn't have an array of moves. I worry about Barnett
He's
a
young.
lot.
I don't worry about him.
I'm not
He's going
worried
to be
about him.
fine.
I don't think he's
not
going to
like
be
he-
a star
It's not
player.
like he's a nagging injury where he's on and off the field. It's kind of like Michael Bennett. Everybody was very upset to lose him. I liked what Michael Bennett brought on the field, don't get me wrong. but I think it was okay to move on because Michael Bennett was not going to do any team-friendly deals or work anything out.
Michael Bennett,
And he actually-
He's also hurt. You still watch
Michael
him
Bennett
talk
came
about-
out.
He got paid by.
It's easy to get yourself away. There's this culture with the Eagles. Michael Bennett said he wanted to get paid more money. He was discontent, and he had a good year. And he basically talked himself out of the city, and that's what he wanted to do.
And that's where there's only one team who's done that normally, and that's the Patriots. Which is funny that he went there. The Patriots would not sign anybody, even though most teams they had some guys who were just some great players. They would not sign anybody for more than anything, but more than they felt it was worth. And the Eagles finally are like the second team in the whole NFL who finally said, maybe we should also do that. And it's worked out, I think, for the most part. They keep the good guys around. And it's kept a good culture in the locker room.
Yeah.
And they do a lot of one-year contracts and a little bit of revolving chairs, and that's the Patriots method.
Culture is huge. Culture is everything, and that's why Nigel Bradham's back. That's why Brandon Graham is back. And this Eagles team, I mean, there is talks that they might look for a big wide receiver. I mean, I know that they have Deshaun. What's the status of Aguilar? Who the heck knows what's going to happen with Nelson Aguilar?
They are about 20 or 18 million under the cap with Aguilar's $9 million hit. So
the cap.
I mean,
I'm glad they retained Aguilar. I think that there were too many slot receivers. Golden Tate was more or less competing for the same spot. That was a bad pickup. Aguilar, we need to get him back to being Nelson Aguilar.
They don't know Tate.
No, they don't know him anything. He was on a one-year deal.
Well,
He's gone.
That's
they
why
gave
Howie
away
loves
a
those
third.
compensatory picks. Man. He loves them because he got a pick back out of the deal.
And what?
He's stockpiling them like crazy.
What pick did he get back for Tate?
6th round, I think.
Only six.
Okay, so they lost.
We got more 6th-round picks than anybody.
You guys lost.
We're
that
great with
trade.
competitive.
Yeah, but you guys.
Well, the third.
The Eagles lost it.
The third, yeah, because you gave up a third for Tate.
Aguilar's also much younger than him. Don't forget. I'm not. I think Tate's a very good player. Don't get me wrong, but I still haven't figured out the move with the Giants. Because are they building or are they trying to go win this year?
The Giants are trying to win this year.
Can the Giants answer that question?
It's going to be, if the Giants can win anything this year, it'll be miraculous.
Like I'm saying, you sign Golden Tate, you sign.
Who, Golden?
You sign
Marcus
Golden Tate, but then you get rid of arguably one of the best receivers in the league.
Because Odell Beckham, he is so annoying when he doesn't have the football that Odell Beckham will always complain that he's not getting it. And as a quarterback, you're forcing balls into double coverage because you have a whiny wide receiver. So it's a lot better to get a bunch of guys who don't care about getting the football. It's just like if you're playing a pickup game with somebody at recess, Bruce, and you're the quarterback, and the person's always complaining that they're open, then you feel bad for them, you get bullied by them, and you force it into double coverage instead of going through your reads. That's why New England wins every year, because New England, as Franco just blasted a home run there.
And that's
New England, the New England Patriots, who did they win with? They win with Edelman, Chris Hogan. They win with lacrosse players.
Miguel Franco, again, we started off by saying
on Steven Strasburg.
You said he is the fourth best player?
On Steven Strasburg. The Phillies tied a game 1-1, 426 feet. That's a tape measure job right there.
The most home runs by an 8-hole hitter last year was 10. He's already up to 4.
Crushed. Watch this ball, just crushed.
And that's the thing is, did you watch any of Reese Hoskins' home runs last night?
They barely got over.
Did you ever watch him? He reminds me of a more patient, pick his better pitch, Ryan Howard. How he just makes contact with the barrel, the meat of the bat.
He's so strong. He steps it. He lifts up his foot. He drops it down. It's all timing with Hoskins.
Yeah.
Doesn't look like he's swinging hard. Unlike our boy Harper, he's got a vicious rip every time.
Here's the one thing: is Harper could not hit a ball for weeks, and I'm okay with it for one reason, because it's the relaxation that he brings this team. That's why they're doing so good. The confidence is flowing.
I think he's like having a sports psychologist right in the middle of the lineup.
And Gabe,
by the way,
everybody's looking at him no
everything
matter
looks
what.
better. And I'm going to say, since Harper decided to come to Philly, it's cool to be in Philly. People are showing up at the stadium. Everything's better. The weather's better. The food tastes better. The water's better. And it's darn good to be in Philadelphia. So
yeah, but let's talk. You want to talk?
I've got to cut out a little bit early.
You want to talk about the draft?
I want to thank. I've got to cut out early.
All right.
I'm going to be late for my dinner, but that doesn't matter. I'm having more fun here with Rover Sports.
You should be.
I want to thank the callers. Thank everybody on my Facebook page
and you're certainly going to keep rolling. And a lot of people will get some callers here. On my way out, I'm going to just give the call number. Call in. You'll actually get on the air live. 484-257-9592.
I want to thank Bruce again for coming in. He did a tremendous job. Al, I definitely want to talk more about the NFL draft. So some of the prospects that we look at this year. I mean, the quarterback position, we have Kyler Murray. What do you think about Kyler Murray as a 6-foot quarterback or 5'10" quarterback? What do you think about him?
I mean, some people, he's kind of one of those guys who've been a little. Some people are super high on him, and some people just don't. It's kind of Baker Mayfield-ish. Like you don't know how to feel about him, and he's that one guy like Baker Mayfield. I want to see him in a uniform. I want to see what he can do, but I'm kind of like
you can't project.
He's very hard to project.
You can't project.
Certain people you can just look at and say, "Damn, he's got the build. He's got the athleticism. He's got the rocket arm. He's got the sports IQ." But, I mean, I think he has the IQ and the arm for it.
Yeah.
His 6-foot stature makes it a little difficult. His wheels, things like that. What can he hang in an NFL game on an NFL team? That's to be seen.
Yeah, I mean, I look at the quarterbacks, and of course Trevor Lawrence from Clemson is going to be the guy that's like a can't miss. I think the guy Tua Tagovailoa is going to be a guy from Alabama that you can't miss. This year you have Dwayne Haskins, who played 1 year, not the most mobile guy, good
Isn't
thrower.
Isn't that what A-Rod calls Haskins? Haskins?
Yes. Yes, it is. Yeah, I heard that.
Called Philly cheesesteak a cheese sandwich, and then he kept the whole time. He kept going, Haskins.
He called it a cheese sandwich.
I'm sorry, he's just a face to be on there. He is not good.
But when he talks about the baseball, though, the X's and O's, doesn't he do a great job?
Some of the things he said, I felt like, have you ever played professional baseball in your life? Like, some of the things he said was kind of been a head scratcher.
Yeah.
Sorry to cut you off, but I had to point that out. He said Haskins.
I'm trying to figure the other guys. I like that guy Burns from Arizona Diamondbacks, who was an announcer.
Yeah. Well, I mean, Buster is the only one who, in Sunday Night Baseball, who can hold his own.
He's okay.
That girl is useless.
Yeah.
All she did was make faces. I said, say something.
Oh,
and
she is.
And then she would say something. I said, stop talking.
Right. You're better when you're just making faces.
Go back to making good faces.
I look at baseball. I'm trying to think of who's. You just got to be entertaining. Like even Pedro and Poppy. Like I just like hearing them talk. Because they're entertaining.
There's certain people. There's certain voices that just live. Like,
well, Smoltz is pretty good.
I'll tell you. I'll hear Harry Callis' voice on some videos or past games, and I'll get all choked up because when he died, I mean, I was hurt, man. I was very hurt because. He was like your best friend watching the game. You always had his voice.
Because he's your buddy. He's like family.
And he was so distinct. His son, his voice, I wouldn't say they're exactly alike, but like voice, you could definitely see it.
Is he coming up the son right now?
I think Phillies, and that's just...
Where's the son?
The son's he was in Tampa Bay last time I checked.
So he's climbing up the ranks to take over.
He was in Tampa Bay when he passed away too. So he's been there for a little while.
All right,
but I don't think he's not in the organization. He calls games for the Tampa Bay Rays. I'm pretty sure.
Right. But who watches them?
Well, I'm saying,
no one goes to Rays.
Tom McCarthy, I think, does a good job. He also calls a lot of that Westwood One football on the radio.
The NFL, Callis.
Yeah.
Callis. I like Kevin.
Callis. I mean Tom McCarthy.
Tom McCarthy does it all. They absolutely do it all.
Yeah.
And for baseball, Joe Buck is just kind of annoying. I think he's just
played out because then you get him for October baseball, and then you have him during football season. I think he doesn't even call NASCAR sometimes.
For some reason, Nance I like better than Buck.
Well, here's and. I'm just tired of having ex-Dallas Cowboys. Troy Aikman, and now you got Tony Romo.
Witten.
Oh, my God. He was so bad. The only demotion they could find is by putting him back on Dallas. That's how bad he did.
Yeah.
Listen, you did such a bad job. The only thing we could do that's worse than what you did is put you back in Dallas.
I want there to be entertainment. I think Greg Olson would be entertaining. I'm sure you watch this guy, Pat McAfee, the punter for the Colts. Mm-hmm. I think he would bring a lot of electricity to Monday Night Football.
Listen, you have to have personality. You have to be able to talk, but you also have to know a little bit. You don't have to be like a Chris Wheeler from the Phillies who just knew something. Oh, the 1912 Philly. No.
You don't have to be a nerd.
No, but like it's okay to have that knowledge, but you don't always have to bring it. But if you know the game enough, honestly, Tony Romo does a half decent job because he's played recently. He does call good when the plays are going on, but I just like how he talks like he's been in. Like he called the Super Bowl. The only way Tony Romo goes to the Super Bowl is by announcing it. And he's talking about, oh, yeah, when you're at this biggest game of your life. I'm like, how would you know? You sat at the couch and watch that every year.
Yeah.
So,
yeah. Well, but the thing I love about Romo when he does the games is he's like a little kid watching the games. He's like, ooh, it's a fumble. You know, he has all those noises towards. Yeah. I love how excited he is calling a game. Phil Simms, even though he played for the Giants, he was stale. Aikman I don't like. I like Collinsworth more than Aikman. More than Tony Aikman. It's not Tony Aikman. Troy. Troy is bland. I really don't. Look, some people like Troy Aikman.
I would rather deal with the cowboy-loving Troy Aikman than Chris Collinsworth, I think. I'm the other way around.
You don't like Collinsworth?
I think he's hot garbage.
Do you think he's like that Southern guy in WWE?
He reminds me of just a guy who thinks he knows just way too much. He kind of talks down to people. If you ever notice, like, it's very... He's very condescending at times, if I guess would be the way to put
but
it.
Al is such a pro. Al Michaels.
I like Al Michaels. I have no problem with him.
I think everybody pretty much likes Al Michaels, but
you can tell it's the guys you can tell they're biased with. It's like you can tell Troy Aikman is very pro Dallas, and like when he talks about Philly, he did, or they're calling a New York game or something.
Yeah,
you could tell he's trying to be a conscientious observer.
Yeah,
but he's not.
He's bland.
You can tell.
I'd rather them just like be out in the open than about it.
Yeah.
Like I don't even mind Barkley being biased. Charles Barkley.
That's what makes Charles Barkley, you like him because he don't care. If he doesn't like a team, he'll tell you, I don't like the team, I think they suck. Or I think they're great. Or I think this player's great. And he has no problem. I think he's an idiot.
Right.
Oh, this team's
can this please go? Can this please go? Please go. Yeah! Harper! 3-run homer!
3-1 homer by Bryce Harper.
Bryce Harper!
It's number 4 in the season.
That was Oppo for Harp. Man, what a fun game to go to for these people.
And this is what I'm talking about. You know, how many times was the Phillies down last year for down 1-0, 2-0 in the third inning, and you're like, oh, they're done. Because they can be so cold.
And even in the middle of the season, they were just so bland. Like, they weren't winning a World Series, Al, but this team could win a World Series, and this could be, what are they, 6-2 or 7-2 right now?
They're currently 7-2.
Oh, this could be 8-2. I mean, this could be a special start. If Eflin pitches so well, they maybe get Dallas Keuchel. You could then have one of the great teams ever. I want this team to win 105, 110 games.
Here's the best part. If they keep playing this way, you can get a Keuchel or you can get a Kimbrel.
Right. I
think at a 1-year prove-it deal.
Right.
Because why wouldn't you want to come play for this team? I mean, how much is this pitching bowed out? I mean, this batting bowed out our pitching. You know, there hasn't been any spectacular pitching outside of Eflin starts.
Yes.
The bullpen is still shaky, even with Robertson.
Very shaky. Robertson, Neshek.
But like yesterday, if it wasn't for Hoskins' insurance home run at the end of the game, like the 8th inning, it was 4-2. You know, what's his Neshek was letting it up.
Get out. That's gonna. Do you think that these players like Gabe Kapler, or do you think that he's kind of annoying with the sleep cycles and all this scientific kind of stuff?
I don't think it's just. I think Gabe is bought into that. I think a lot of that comes from the higher ups with the sports science, if you want to call it.
Yeah.
I think people are liking Gabe more because Gabe had a team yet last year that there's no stars on it. It was like vanilla.
It was so boring.
I mean, even when they were up in this, they were the top of the division.
Yeah,
you still couldn't sell out of stands. The place was dead.
Totally dead. And for me, being a casual baseball fan, they had no hope. And that's when they were terrible a couple years ago. It's hard to watch a game when the Phillies are 20 games below 500. It's hard to watch.
And here's the thing: is the other thing is it's like one of those. It's like basketball. As long as the team's doing well, you don't give a shit what the coach does. As long as you don't do something stupid. You know, he made some bonehead mistakes. It was his first year.
I just want the players to like being around him because it's all about the chemistry.
I think they do. He's definitely a player's coach.
And that's great.
But new agey, you know, in a new age way. Like, because, all right, there was a story about Carlos Santana taking a baseball bat to a TV last year because guys during the freaking game would go down and play Fortnite. During the game, not after the game, not before the game, not during practice.
What, the players that weren't in that day?
Yeah, like pitchers, anybody on the bench. You know, maybe they weren't, you know, and they weren't doing, you know, they were starting to fall off at that point. And the best hitting that Carlos Santana did all last year was against a Toshiba TV, not a baseball.
Yeah, and I'm happy he's gone. He was overpaid.
Well, that was another thing is that was totally overlooked because of the whole Harper Machado situation. That trade was beautiful. I mean, that was very Howie Roseman-esque. Like they didn't just unload a bad contract and took a hit on it. They unloaded a contract, and they got Gene Segura out of the deal.
Yeah.
And actually, he went to Seattle for about 10 seconds, and he's back in Cleveland now, Carlos Santana.
It's so funny that, you know, speaking of Howie Roseman, that you get Golden Tate and you give up a third. And I look at Tate as like a middling kind of wide receiver who could be okay. Mm-hmm. And Jordan Howard, to me, I mean, just a couple years ago, this guy was maybe a top 15 back. Well, for a 6th-round pick, that's like getting the guy for free. But maybe he's a free agent coming up. I'm not sure, but it's still.
I think he's signed into their contract.
It's still like getting the guy for free. How could anyone on earth not like that deal?
It was good timing. Here's my thing: is the only reason his numbers were down last year is because it was Cohen.
Tyreek
Cohen, right?
Tariq Cohen, the little jugger bug.
But he is the running back. He's that pass catching running back that Nagy wants.
Super dynamic kid. Really talented kid.
I think Jordan Howard just didn't fit into the scheme for the Bears.
Yep.
And Nagy has that contact with, that relationship with Peterson.
Oh, Dougie P.
So it just made it easy.
Yeah. And I guess sometimes, you know, these general managers, they send players that they like to places where they're going to flourish and succeed. So maybe that's really what, you know, you want to send Jordan to a good place that he could succeed.
It was first the double doink, and now we got to thank Chicago for giving us one of the better young running backs in the league, right?
And beating the Minnesota Vikings.
I mean, especially in our division, which has a very, you got in New York, you got Saquon.
Yep.
You got Zeke down in Dallas.
Yep.
And you even have
Geis and Peterson
and Redskins.
They have Thompson too, who could catch passes.
Yeah.
Chris Thompson.
So we have to compete. That's why I still think if they can get Duke Johnson, who obviously wants to get out of there, where I think we have the upper hand, that's definitely a buyer's market for Duke Johnson. If we can get him for another quote unquote steal or at least something friendly, maybe something next year or conditional, whatever it is. We can get him. I just think that takes that really. I don't think Duke Johnson is this great running back, but I think for a second, part of a two-headed monster, three-headed monster situation,
it would be a great running back room, very good running back room.
I think they can both strive. They're both different types of runners, and that's what makes them very unique in that sense. So you have that ability to do it, and then you don't feel so pressured to make that running back move come the draft. And I think that's what. I think that's the big difference right there, and that's
you
what I'm
could get a pass rusher.
Yeah, and
you could get an elite level pass rusher.
Yeah, and you got defense, and then you just worry about O-line because even if you don't feel like you need to replace somebody right now, you have to think about the future. I mean, Jason Kelce isn't getting much younger, and not that I think he's going to be run out of the, but maybe a couple of years. So you do need a center.
Peters.
Brooks is going to be a big question mark. His ankle.
Is he still young though, Brandon Brooks?
He's still young. Yeah, I mean he's still got a good few years on him at least. But and then of course Jason Peters. Now is it Jordan Mailata who's going to step up and be in his place?
Who's the other guard? Sayamalu. Yeah.
And I mean. Not to say the O-line is going to fall apart after this year, but you have to wait. Listen, if this is going to be the year where you sign Carson Wentz, you want to bubble wrap him. You want to protect him as best as – because I think that was another problem. Last year, it wasn't just – I don't blame just Carson Wentz for some of the downfalls at the beginning of last year, especially the first half. they definitely there was a lot of work to be done. A lot of people were coming off the Super Bowl high. It's just
they needed to run the ball. They needed to have balance. They throw the ball too much, Al.
Yeah.
That's the thing, is that Carson should only be throwing it 30, 35 times, because then you can throw the downfield shots. And the year before you had Burton, Burton was really a weapon. Dallas Goedert's got to be Burton, and I think Goddard can be Burton. Yeah. And then he has to throw it to Alshon. Just trust him with the 50-50 balls.
Yeah.
And with Nick Foles, the offense was just, they had a running game. And Nick Foles was play action pass and deep ball, and that's where you're really dangerous.
Yeah.
But I wanted to get your thoughts on the Giants and the Cowboys. I look at the Cowboys as having a really good defense. I think Dak actually showed me something last playoffs. This Dallas team is a playoff team. I think they're the division favorite right now. I think they can win 12 games this year.
Well, I think they solidify their defense a little bit by signing Lawrence, by solidifying what they kind of already had.
Well, it's a huge contract. It might come back to bite them, but yes.
I honestly think Dallas is in a do-or-die situation. I think they're setting up like that.
With Garrett?
Yeah, I mean, if Jason Garrett has a bad year and he's not gone, I think Jerry Jones becomes the biggest laughing stock. Over Dan, I used to put it like this. I would say Jerry Jones was like close to the bottom. Dan Snyder's like the floor.
Dan Snyder's the dead bottom.
I don't know. If Garrett has a bad year and he's not gone, I start to wonder.
Well, but last year for the Cowboys was kind of a success, winning a playoff game, going to play the Rams, the NFC champions.
Let's break this down.
Yes.
Was it really? They did have some good games. Their defense stepped up. They did well. Their defense won a lot of games. Their defense was shut down. The one good game I can say that they definitely had was the Saints game.
Yes.
They played the best team in the league, one of the best teams in the league. They played well against them. They kept them off their toes. The offense really was not a big part of that game. It wasn't a big...
The Saints? Yeah, I agree.
That was all the defense. They were in a division that was falling apart quickly. Okay?
Yeah.
I will still protest that Eagles-Dallas game at the end of the year. That could have been really different. I mean, that game ended on a wacky play at best.
But Cooper, you couldn't stop him.
No.
He had 230 yards in the game.
Well,
and then the first game, the Cowboys beat you at home the first game. They just did. And the Eagles were middling. And
that first half of the season, the Eagles couldn't find themselves. Hot garbage. I'm going to call it right now. I was using the term dumpster fire
average,
for a little bit.
Very mediocre.
They were still... I think you had Carson with a little bit of a monkey on his back because of Wentz or because of
Nick Foles,
and always looking over his shoulder. I believe you had a lot of a team that didn't know what to do, who maybe a lot of that team supported Foles because what just happened with him. And, apparently there were some rumors that Carson wasn't taking the situation
Michael Bennett talked about that.
Yeah. And my point being is, that first half of the season, we were pretty much giving...
games away, you think?
Well,
that Vikings game, first of all, you made a nice comeback in that Vikings game, but they were killing you in that game. I still look at the Eagles like that Tennessee game. It's not like the Eagles were a joke, but they just didn't know how to finish.
And here's the other thing. Look at we went from where we thought the secondary was going to be good. Everybody got hurt. The secondary were playing with guys who are literally pulling out of the stands for the most part. And
AAF guys.
And then these guys come out and they look like playing like gangbusters. I mean, they played well.
The Cowboys?
No, the Eagles, the secondary. After Jalen Mills got hurt.
Busby, I think, is the guy.
We got Busby.
Maddox.
Avante. What's the other guy?
He played well in that Rams game. That was the shocker of the season.
LeBlanc?
Yes.
I mean, these are all guys who really were nobodies, who stepped in, third stringers at best, who ran well with them.
Sullivan,
these Chicago Bears could have taken that game off, brought the Vikings back, and most likely means round 2 of the playoffs for them. If they played if the Chicago Bears played
That's the Vikings, exactly right.
Most likely.
That's what I was saying to the Chicago. I said they're foolish to want the Super Bowl champions because who would you rather want in that one-game scenario? Kirk Cousins or Nick freaking Foles in this red-hot Eagles team, and they buried their own grave. And now a lot of people will say, well, that sends the wrong message if you're purposefully losing in sports. But now if you're Chicago, would you rather be sitting at, if you're Chicago, you need that playoff experience.
Yeah.
So
and listen, I give Nagy some props, I guess you want to call him, because he didn't want to just go out and because I mean, it could have went the other way. You have a divisional rival. It would be like, all right, you're the Giants. You can decide who you want to play round one. Do you lose to the Eagles because...
But it's a fringe divisional rival.
Huh?
It's kind of a fringy divisional rival.
No, I mean, let me ask you a question.
Yes.
New York Giants were in the Bears situation.
Yes.
You could choose to either play the Eagles or Dallas, whoever it is, that round, or beat them now and take on a who would look like a decimated Eagles team.
You invite them back to kick their ass.
We'll say they're the Bears.
But also, Chicago would have gotten the Vikings at home, and they would have humiliated them in the playoffs, and no one would remember the week prior. It'd be awesome. You would beat a division rival for a playoff spot.
I'll give Nagy a little. You can criticize all you want, but he said, "I'm going to take this game for what it is." It could have been, and think about it, a home game, last game of the season. It's definitely a playoff type caliber game for the Vikings, so it gives a lot of young guys in Chicago a playoff caliber type game atmosphere. So they can get a little feet wet.
All right.
It was a tight game. It really was a tight game for the Eagles in Chicago. Double doink lost it for him. I mean,
but Nagy was also way too conservative in that game, Al. He didn't stretch the field at all. He was terrible. And Doug Peterson was brilliant. I think the Bears had a better team. The Bears had a better defense that day, and Nick Foles navigated that game beautifully.
Oh, Golden Tate made hell of a catch.
Well, the Eagles, they kind of held the ball. They didn't turn the ball over at all. Maybe one time Nick Foles threw an interception.
That really wasn't his
fault. Mitch Trubisky was red hot in that game, especially in the fourth quarter. Nagy didn't take the training wheels off. Nagy played scared, and it was dumb because the Eagles are so dangerous. You needed to show the Eagles respect by allowing the Vikings to come back to your house and to beat them at home. And the Bears, I really do think that they made a mistake because you got to take the right path that's necessary. I really think Nagy to this day would say it's a mistake.
It's hindsight at that point.
But I said in the moment. But if you polled America, who would you rather play? The Vikings and Kirk Cousins, who's really not that clutch right now, or Nick Foles and the Eagles? Who wanted to play the Eagles? They went to L.A. and they killed the Rams.
They were pretty much dead in the woods.
In fact, if the Eagles played the Rams in the playoffs, do you think the Eagles would have maybe beaten the Rams?
I have, without a shadow of a doubt, the Eagles could have been Super Bowl champs last year. If
Jeffrey could have converted that last drive.
No, if they could play. Listen, they came out against the Saints and just the first quarter owned them. If they could have added one more touchdown to that, it would have been a winning game. We won by 1 point.
But I will say this, though. I mean, the Saints, for the majority of that game, like second quarter through middle of the fourth, they controlled that game, though. You could not stop them on third down.
Absolutely.
And that's a problem.
Absolutely correct, but what was the final score?
That's getting outplayed a little bit.
But
also, the Saints, I believe that, they called a penalty back on a touchdown. Field goal kicker misses that kick. I think that kick would have made it. That kick was a big kick.
If we won that Saints game, they got one more touchdown in a 21-20 game. Game would have been the Eagles. The
Saints were rusty, though.
I think they go to L.A. They beat L.A. handedly again.
It would be a tight game.
And the way that if
the Patriots the way they played,
if the Tom Brady and the Patriots played the way they did, without a shadow of a doubt, the Eagles would have been back-to-back Super Bowl champions.
The Eagles were just red hot at the right time last year.
They were red hot. They got a little cooled off by the Saints towards the middle of that game.
Yes.
And they didn't recoup. It was a little too late at that point. It was
the Saints were rusty, I will say that, though.
And that's the thing is, and I actually said that. I said, everybody relax on this because they're like, oh, they're going to kill them. I'm like, the Saints haven't played, and most of these guys have not played in 3 weeks. I mean, Drew Brees didn't play for 3 weeks. Then you look at these other guys, they're starting to put up crazy numbers at the end of the game because they are picking apart the Eagles' defense. And let's be honest, how did that game end? On a very in an odd situation.
Choppy play before the 2-minute warning.
And people still complain that, he should have taken the 2-minute warning. He should have went to the timeout. He should have taken the rest.
Yeah.
But as far as I was concerned, there was really nobody around Alshon at that point. And he's a professional athlete. He should be able to catch that ball.
But for Nick Foles to even score that touchdown there, it's kind of like when's the magic going to run out? Because he had, I'm not saying it's lucky, but he had the The Texans game, he did it. The Bears game, he made the magic
99
fourth and goal,
times
the
out of
double
100.
doink.
Yeah.
The Bears game was kind of fortunate to win.
Yeah.
It's fortunate that they were even in the playoffs last year.
If it wasn't for the Bears, we wouldn't have been there.
Exactly right. So,
We didn't control our own destiny at that point. We did not control our own destiny. 99 times out of 100, Alshon catches that ball, right?
yes.
So I don't think he was wrong to throw it. I don't think he was wrong. And they were driving, what was that, like 20, 25 yards
Maybe
away?
90 out of 100. But the fact is, even if you get that catch, I'd say then out of 100 times, in the pressure of that moment, you maybe score. It's like 50-50 chance you're scoring.
Nick Foles? What, magic time? Nick Foles didn't run out of magic. Alshon Jeffrey ran out of a little magic. But Nick Foles did. He got that pass off. It was right to him. It was right. That just went right through Alshon's hands. The butterfingers, whatever you want to call it. That's what it was, and that's what it ends up being. There was no more and no less. If Alshon catches that ball, without a doubt in my mind, they score a touchdown, and there's not much time left in that game. The defense comes out. We're on to L.A., and I think we run the table right down to Super Bowl.
Al, you know what's so interesting, though, about the NFL and football, and this is why I love the game of football? You know, a lot of people in Philadelphia, you have to admit that the people who said that the Eagles wouldn't get a Super Bowl hangover, you might have been that person who said that they wouldn't have gotten a Super Bowl hangover. They did get a hangover. Because that game against the Saints, when they got demolished, what was it, week 7 or 8?
I think they needed
I'm
that.
telling you.
I think they needed it.
There might have been something to that Carson Wentz story because the team just quit on Carson Wentz. The team quit. They went into New Orleans. They didn't prepare. There was something wrong with that game. And with Nick Foles at the helm, their attitude was so different in that playoff game. And that's why in sports, it's all about the attitude and the morale. And that's like, and you talk about like Odell going to the Browns and, oh, the Giants are going to be terrible now. But it's all about the locker room and the attitude. It's all about that. It really is all about that. And that's why they played so well against the Saints in the playoffs.
My point with the Giants, outside of being an Eagles fan and just despising the Giants,
yes,
it's so... It's like pick your poison. Like one guy they're going to keep around because they're just in a rebuild phase, and then they're going to spend all this money on a guy like Golden Tate, who, to me, no offense, is a little bit on the older side.
They spend $9 million.
If you're going to get a new quarterback in there, either this year or next year,
yeah,
you got Saquon in there. You got to rebuild your O-line.
The O-line doesn't need rebuild.
Yeah, we'll talk about that later. We'll see. We'll see when Fletcher Cox is making Eli his bitch by the end of that. I'm just saying.
He has for the last few years.
Oh, man.
What is it? You're 6-1 or something against the Giants. It's like not even a contest anymore.
I think like even more than that at this point. I think they're like 9-1 or something over the last like 5 years.
Yeah.
I think they haven't won a game against the Eagles since before Carson.
It was 2016. Carson Wentz was playing at the Meadowlands. Remember that game?
Yes.
Horrible first quarter for the Eagles.
Yeah.
Also, this year, the Giants could have beat the Eagles at home. They had a big lead at halftime. Pat Shurmur got conservative. Yeah, they couldn't stop Zach Ertz. Landon Collins couldn't stop Zach Ertz. But for the New York Giants, Eli Manning could still make a playoff run. He's still good enough, too. He's average and mediocre. And
it's not just Eli, though. My thing with the Giants, it's not, since we only have about 2 minutes left.
Yeah.
It's not just Eli. I think Eli's a big factor into it, but I don't think it's just Eli. It's like, okay, you got the super strong piece right here, and then you got these nobodies over here. And then you
Odell Beckham,
one of the best wide receivers. And listen, they got a nice haul back for him, but it's like Saquon. You really like. I told somebody said to me, if the Eagles went to the Giants and said, listen, we'll give you this year's first round, a second round from this year, and next year's first round. If they take it, would you do that deal? I'm like, I would do that deal in a heartbeat because Saquon is that kind of player that you may not see for another 10, 15, 20 years.
Yeah.
If the Giants even thought about it, that would be scary.
But the thing is, Odell Beckham was on the team. They weren't very good. He gets hurt a lot.
Well,
and
he's
I really do think, guess what? They got rid of a problem, not a talent. I think that it was an addition by subtraction. And it's just like with football in the middle of the year. With football, it's a weird game where just you need that chemistry.
And
it's
a chemistry game.
I
don't think the Cleveland Browns are going to benefit from Saquon or from Odell at all. I think he hates being there. He is not one. He's
an LA guy.
He's an LA New York guy. He wants to be on a fly. I could even see even maybe Philly, top 5 market. But he is not going to do well in Cleveland, cold Cleveland. He will not do well there, even though he's back with Landry.
Yes.
Maybe a guy like Baker Mayfield might be a nice change of pace for him.
Yes.
From Eli. I don't think he's going to be happy. I think he's going to cause more problems than anything.
Guess what? I'm glad that we're on the same boat with this, because a lot of people think the Cleveland Browns are going to be an elite Super Bowl contender. Guess what? The Cleveland Browns are going to tank. I even think the Pittsburgh Steelers with Juju Smith-Schuster, they got rid of Antonio Brown. I think the Steelers can win that division. I don't see a Browns dynasty. I don't see
the experts have the Browns winning the division.
I don't see a Browns dynasty at all. Like, I would be shocked if they're a consistent team with all those personalities in the locker room, because why wouldn't other GMs do what Dorsey is doing? Bringing in Hunt, bringing in Odell, bringing in Landry. It's hilarious to see the Cleveland Brown fans who's never experienced winning, they are getting so excited over having all these pieces in the offseason. They haven't won anything. These games haven't even started yet.
My last statement on that situation is pretty straightforward. Like you just said, they haven't won anything in forever. They haven't even sniffed a playoff chance in a long-ass time. So, yeah, I wouldn't be surprised.
Their owner is impulsive. It's a first-year coach.
Think about the Eagles. After their closest to the Super Bowl in 2004, they kind of had a couple chances after that. And then 2008, 9, 10, 11, 12, they started to drop off. So then that dream team, and I hate using that term, comes out. So, yeah, then Eagles fans get excited because you went from nothing, then you put all these big pieces in, so you assume because you have these big pieces you're going to do better. So, of course, they're going to think that, and you don't blame them for it, but I think they're in for a rude awakening. And I'm still not sold on Baker Mayfield. Some people are. I
like Mayfield, but now he has all these headaches in his ear.
This year, well, and this is the thing, the last thing I'm going to say is, does Baker Mayfield become a leader? Not is he going to become a better quarterback, but does he become a leader, and is he able to control these personalities?
It's going to be fantastic to watch. It's going to be so exciting to watch, and the great news is the New York Giants don't have to deal with the Beckham and all of the media. The media is all going to be in Cleveland, and it's good when your team is out of the limelight. It really is great. So, Al, I want to thank you again. I had a great time today. We're going to talk about the Masters last week, and I'm still trying to set up an interview with Luis Perez or one of the Eagles. We'll try to get him, try to get them in this room here in this great RDR studios here. So, again, thanks a lot. I had a great time.
All right, man. We'll see you next time.